that'll show you, hey, here's where you can send your dispute letter. If you want to call them, I'll send you the number as well. Or you can go ahead and email me, 800 at creditscoreman.com. That's 800 at creditscoreman.com. Send me an email if you're not sure exactly where to do. But you could simply Google. All you got to do is put in the Google machine, TransUnion and dispute filing. Put that in, it'll come up and tell you exactly where to send it for TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, all three of those things. All right. So that's my piggyback from last week, you guys. So make sure that you do these things to help improve your credit score. Now, let's transition a little bit and let's talk about 5 simple ways to improve your credit score right now. Now, these things you should know anyway. You should know these things, but we're going to go over them because not everybody's in the same place. There's a reason there's a first grade versus a fifth grade versus an eighth grader versus a junior in high school. There's a reason for that. Not everybody's on the same level, right? And we've got a lot of people listening that are all in all different walks of their credit journey. So we're going to go over some of these 5 simple ways that you can improve your credit score. And number 5, you're going to know that this is my absolute favorite when we get to number 5. So number 1, as mentioned, check your credit report. Check your credit report. I don't care if you're not having an issue right now at all. Check your credit report. www.annualcreditreport.com allows you to get that credit report from all 3 credit bureaus once on a 12-month rolling basis. If you're in some states, they allow you to get it even more. Like I think Georgia lets you get it twice in that 12-month, or maybe even 3 times in that 12-month time frame. So make sure you go ahead and you get your credit report. Now you can get your credit report directly from the credit bureaus as well. When you go to www.annualcreditreport.com, they're going to direct you right to all 3 of those credit bureaus. But if you're on, since I always pick on Credit Karma, if you're on Credit Karma and you have both Equifax and TransUnion, when you look at credit report, besides the synopsis that they give you and all that stuff, when you click on the credit report part, that credit report is the exact same everywhere. So you click on TransUnion, that credit report is the same one that TransUnion has on file. It's the same one if you went to the bank and they pulled a credit report for you. That information is all exactly the same. So make sure you get in and you take a look at your credit report. And I suggest, of course, that you do that several times a year. I always suggest that you do that several times a year if you're not going to do it every month. If you're not actively engaged in improving your credit report right now, you're not looking at it every month, or you're not looking at it every couple of weeks or what have you. But if you are, most likely you have been looking at it often. But make sure you get your credit report and you take a look. What are you looking for? On that credit report, you're looking for what we just mentioned. You're looking for those errors that are on your credit report. You want to look at collections that are on your credit report. And right now, this number one thing I'm telling you to do, besides get your credit report, is to file those disputes, as I just mentioned. File those disputes on your credit reports, so you can potentially raise your credit score. So make sure you do that. Number 2, pay your bills on time. Of course, you've got to pay your bills on time. That late payment can drop your score significantly. There's no telling how much it is. And here's the thing. So if you have a good credit score and you have a late payment added to your credit report, you get dinged more points than a person that has a bad credit score because you missed one payment. Now, that may not seem fair at all. It doesn't. To me, it should be. If you miss a late payment, and let's say it's off a credit card, you should get 30 points deducted. If you miss a car payment, then maybe you get 50 points deducted. If you miss a mortgage payment, maybe you get 75 points deducted across the board. But that's not how it works. So if you have a lower credit score, you have a 550 credit score, and you miss a late payment, maybe it drops your score to, say, 520, 525, something of that nature. As an example, you guys, maybe that happens. But if you've got a 775 it might drop your credit score down to a 705. So it should be across the board in standard, but it's not. So the better your credit, the more of a hit you take when you miss a payment. So make sure that you pay your bills on time. And again, paying your bills on time is simply making those payments before they're 30 days late. If you've got a payment that's due on the 25th of the month, you need to make that payment before the 25th of the next month. All right? You got to make that payment before then. If you make it 4 or 5 days late, it's still late as far as your creditor is concerned. They may charge you a late fee and things of that nature. But as far as the credit bureaus are concerned, they wouldn't have any clue about that. Your account and the company that you have that account with won't reflect that you're late until you're 30 days late. They won't report that to the credit bureau until then. So just make sure you're not 30 days late when it comes to it. Now, those late payments too, they stay on your credit report for 7 years. That's a very steep penalty for being late. That's a very, very steep penalty for being 31 days late, 35 days late, 45 days late, or whatever. But it's going to stay on your credit report for 7 years. That late payment is going to be reflected. Now, of course, the older it gets, the less impact it has on your credit score. The older it gets, the less impact. So, you're 3 years out, 5 years out, it doesn't have as much impact on your credit score. But initially, you're going to take a big hit when it comes to that. So make sure you do that. So let me say this right now too. So if you're not having a financial issue right now, if you're not having a financial issue, you can make those payments even though COVID is going on, and but you're still getting paid or whatever, and you can make those payments. It doesn't mean that you can't call and get this freeze, if you will, as well. So you can call and you can potentially get this freeze as well. And if you do that, getting like a zero interest, having them take your interest down to zero, still make the payment if you can. If you can, I want you to still make the payment. If you still make the payment on whatever it is, a car, credit card, whatever it is, you still make the payment. And especially if you get this with your mortgage, which you pay a lot of interest with, and you still make the payment, then more is going towards your principal. That means you're going to pay less in interest all across the board with all of these. So that's more money in your pocket. So if you can go ahead and you can get them to put you down to zero interest, and say you don't have to make a payment, but you want to make a payment, all of that should be going to your principal. When it comes to your mortgages, you got to make sure that they apply it to your principal and not the normal way that they do things. So make sure you do that. But you definitely need to talk to, especially if it's your mortgage, you definitely need to talk to them because, of course, when you make your mortgage payment, you've got property taxes in there, and and insurance as well. So all of those things are connected. Make sure you talk to them so you see how much is going toward the principal on your loan. Paying more on your principal can lower the term. So you got a 30-year term on your mortgage, but you pay more on your principal, then potentially it can drop it down a couple of years. If you pay that extra payment, if you don't know about this, you make an extra payment on your mortgage every year, it can drop that 30-year term basically to a 25, 24-year term because you make an extra payment every year. So make sure you give them a call to take advantage of this if you can. If you can take advantage of this time, you're still getting paid, you don't have an issue with the money, then make sure you take advantage of this and save yourself on some interest. Number 4 thing that I want you to do, don't apply for credit if you don't need it. So if you don't need any additional credit right now, don't apply for it. If you've got a job, or maybe even you got laid off and you're doing unemployment right now, you're doing unemployment, but with the stimulus bill that was just passed, you're going to get additional money. You may get as much money as you make. So if you get as much money as you make, don't apply for additional money if you don't need it right now. I also warned you last week when you're calling these your creditors, don't let them talk you into refinancing. Maybe you don't need to refinance. If you refinance, then they're going to pull your credit. So that's applying for credit again. Again, of course, that's going to impact your credit score because that inquiry is going to pull anywhere from 2 to 10 points off of your credit report. So it's unnecessary to do. It's definitely unnecessary to do at this particular point in time when you have other options out there. So refinancing should really be your last option. Some of these places that grant, say, personal loans, their whole deal is not dealing with your credit or what have you. Their whole deal is to get you to pay more interest some way, somehow. And to get you to pay more interest is to start your loan over again, and that's by refinancing. So make sure that you leave that for last, as a last resort for you, but try to follow the other things, the forbearance, the deferrals, the zero interest. Try those things before you go to refinance. Now, if you need to, then you just need to. Whatever's best for your pocket and it's going to work out best for you, make sure you do that thing. But I would say refinancing for the last resort at this particular point when it comes to this game. So that's the number 4 thing. Do not apply for credit if you don't need it. If you don't know, on your credit report, those inquiries stay on your credit report for 2 years. The newer versions of FICO 8, 9, and now we even have 10, no longer count those against you after 12 months. They still stay on your credit report for the full 24 months, but they no longer count against you after 12 months. So you can go out and apply for those things, but credit bureaus often seem to think that more than 6 inquiries in a 2-year period is too much. So if you get a rejection letter, or if you look at something that's explaining, I'm putting up air quotes, explaining your credit score, oftentimes they're going to put in there, you got too many inquiries. So that doesn't really mean a whole bunch necessarily, but just so you know, that's what they think, that's what they look at for far as that's concerned. So I wouldn't concern myself too much with inquiries. It's 10% of your credit score, but it can add up if you have a lot of inquiries. I've told you guys before, you can do so and get as many inquiries as you want when you're looking for a mortgage or a vehicle. If you're looking for a car or you're looking for a mortgage, you can apply as much as you want, but not just like go bananas and go crazy with it. A lot of people are upset when they go to the car dealership and they find out they ran their credit 6 times in one day. In that particular scenario, you're only going to get dinged as if you applied 1 time in that particular scenario. You want more information about this, you contact me. Do not go out there today and apply 100 times anywhere for anything. Don't call mortgage people and call 500 of them right now and see what's going on until you talk to me. So you contacted me so I can give you the full detail on what's happening and how that works for you. So contact me. Send me an email, 800@creditscoreman.com. Send me an email there. And the last thing, my favorite, of course. So if you've listened to the show at all, you know my favorite thing to help you improve your credit score is to become an authorized user on someone else's account. There aren't many things that you can manipulate so much in your favor as becoming an authorized user. What does an authorized user mean, and what does that do for you? So becoming an authorized user is this. Let's say, for example, you have a spouse, you have your fiance, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother. You've got someone close to you that not necessarily, they don't have to have good credit overall. They need to have good credit with one good credit card. They need to have good credit with one good credit card. That credit card they've never been late on that credit card. Let's say that credit card has $1,000 balance or $1,000 limit. $1,000 limit or $10,000 limit, but they don't particularly use it. It doesn't have a balance or has a very low balance. That credit utilization on that card is under 30%. This is ideal. Now, you can piggyback and you can become an authorized user on somebody's card and say they have a 65% credit utilization on that particular card. That's okay. It's just not optimal. Optimal would be they have a $10,000 credit limit, but they have a balance of $2,000. That's a 20% credit utilization. That's very helpful for you. So that's what's optimal if that's the case. If they have $10,000 limit and they owe $5,000, they have a 50% credit utilization. Not bad, just not optimal. All right. So you're going to get on somebody's card. All they have to do is call the 800 number on the back and say, I want to add John Smith to my card. They'll collect some information. You don't get a credit inquiry for this happening, and you get added. Now, what happens when you get added? Let's say they had that card for 10 years. Now, that 10 years worth of payment history, perfect